Trustee Davis, you may turn on your mic and start the meeting.
Good evening and welcome to the August 27th, 2025 Board Workshop Meeting at the Capistrano Unified School District. The meeting is now in session. The time is 5:05 p.m. I'd like to remind everyone that this is an informal workshop for the Board of Trustees. Mrs. Hayes, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Adnams.
It's working. I think here.
Trustee Bullicus.
Here.
Trustee Castellanos.
Here.
Trustee Davis.
Here.
Trustee Jones.
Here.
Trustee Pritchard.
Present.
Trustee Zollinger.
Here.
Okay. And Jennifer, would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Would you like? Yeah. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Moved by Trustee Zollinger, seconded by Trustee Jones. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0-0 to adopt the agenda. I'd like to recognize Greg Merwin, Associate Superintendent, Educational Support Services, to present the following 11 items.
Thank you, President Davis. Okay, so we'll get things started off with item 1, first reading Board Policy 5111.5, Language Immersion and International Baccalaureate Admissions. Dr. Michael Gomez is here to provide an overview, and then we look forward to your feedback and questions.
There it is. Good afternoon, trustees. For this particular policy, we're updating some of our language, especially as it relates to the matriculation pathways. We've now moved beyond the grandfathered language in there that really spelled out how, when the programs were built out, is already in existence, and just clarified some language around those pieces. Any questions?
I have some questions. So, Mr. Scherer and I ran into some issues that are related to this past week, and I wanted to kind of bring them up. First of all, the policy talks about going to IB like all the way through. And I think there's a little bit of an implication that you have to start at the beginning, which in the case of IB is not true. And we also only have one IB school for K-8. And I kind of feel like, I just felt like we are not really explaining that. We make it sound like you've got to be in the TK-8 in order to go on. It doesn't actually say that, but because we do have, there is no such thing for San Clemente, although one could certainly go to San Clemente High School after being at Hankey. It's unlikely that someone would. I just felt we needed some language to kind of address that issue. That you can enter IB at any time. You don't have to be involved in K through 8. I also felt we needed to mention that for language immersion, you don't have to go to TK. So you could, for example, go to your local school for TK and then transfer to a language immersion school after. Again, I feel like TK sort of isn't addressed here, and I think that it probably ought to be. I felt that we ought to probably reference BP 6170.1, which is TK admissions. I don't think you need to include it, but just for TK admissions, see this. And possibly just the regular admissions one, BP 5111A. So, Mr. Shearer and I ran into a situation, and actually the policy, I think it's the kindergarten policy, had something stripped out when it was recently revised, and I think he will be submitting some changes to that. But this came up because there was a child who is eligible for kindergarten this year. His birthday is the beginning of July, but he's also eligible for TK. And I don't know if he could have gone last year because the dates changed. I don't know any of that. But the mother wanted him in TK and they didn't have room, and it was like, we take the youngest kids first. I just feel like we need to be talking in here about, in the admission policy, we need to be dealing with that. There's a certain number of kids who are going to go to a different school for TK. Either there isn't room at their school, or their parents didn't know about language immersion or whatever. So I think we just kind of have to deal with that a little bit because TK is kind of new. Under matriculation pathways, it says, open, second line, open to applicants district-wide after initial Spanish immersion, Spanish language immersion, transitional kindergarten enrollment, et cetera. But it could be transitional kindergarten or kindergarten. Because again, I talk to parents who aren't interested in TK. So I think we just need to deal with that. Then I had some questions on page 3 about the double boundaries and the ESSA receiving school. Do we have one or the other? We either have a double boundary or we have an ESSA receiving school, because that's kind of what it looked like here. Is that how that goes?
It is almost duplicative that we're saying it the same exact way. It should either, well, we could probably clarify that and have double boundary or ESSA receiving, but I think the ESSA receiving school was done back in probably a long time ago.
Right.
When we had if you were a low performing school, then
Right,
you could
right,
opt
right.
to go to that.
Yeah.
So that part existed before that, but really it's all double boundary.
I mean, I guess we could say double boundary / ESSA receiving school. I just looked at it, I'm like, well, why is it like this? So I thought maybe it was worth mentioning. Well, that's what I'm kind of suggesting, because I looked at it
Yeah, that's not a problem.
and I'm like, well, why is it like this? And it just kind of makes somebody question it. I understand. Okay.
So that's a good point. I wasn't going to stop midstream, but some of these things would go in the AR that follows from a board policy, right? So I appreciate wanting the board policy to explain, but the board policy sets the standard, and then the AR explains how we administer that board policy. Okay, so the AR can be changed as needed, as long as it fits within the board policy without having to come back and change board policy. So some of that stuff could be changed, but the explanation of double boundary ESSA can be clarified here. Some of the stuff would be in a different board policy. It wouldn't, like TK admissions wouldn't fall in here. It'd be in a
Right.
TK board policy. So we can make those changes as needed.
Yeah,
if we
I
have
mostly
to.
wanted kind of a reference to that, because I think it's easy to find one and then not find the other without a reference.
Yeah, and I think the reference is good. I think we want to be careful to not try and provide all the context any parent might need. We want them to call, because when you make the policy say lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of words, it gets convoluted. Right?
Okay,
So
all right.
if you try to explain why we got to everything for a parent, I would just highly recommend call us.
Okay.
We want to follow the policy. The policy sets the parameters under which the AR performs, but we are more than happy to speak with a parent if they have a question about it. But I do think the ESSA thing we can clarify. I think we could add language clarifying that the IB doesn't have to start till high school. I think that's fine. I think that language would be clarified, and that the LI doesn't have to start at TK.
Because in
Yeah,
the,
I think those are good.
on the third page, under K-12 program assurances, it says that it's a TK-12 commitment. Well, you know, if you live in San Clemente,
Yeah.
it's not a
Yeah,
TK-12.
I think we can clarify those.
And then at the very end, the end of that paragraph, instruction and intervention strategies rather than being exited from the program. I thought maybe we should say being forced to exit or required to exit, something like that, because some parents may want their kid out. It's like, this is not working, there's too many problems with, you know, the IEP or whatever, and we want to allow them to exit if they want to.
Yeah, I think exited, because it's board policy,
forced
the
exit.
implication is the board would be, or the actors of the board, which is us as the administration, would be exiting them. Parental choice in program is different, right? So
Right.
parents could always choose to exit their kid from any program, any school, right? You don't have to
Exactly.
stay. So but I don't know that that needs to be in the policy.
Okay.
This is more about holding us accountable to providing support before we
Okay.
just remove you.
Okay.
Right? So that
All right.
this is language is to protect them from an overzealous administrator pushing someone out. That's why the
Okay.
language exists.
Sounds good.
Okay. Is the red light mean it's working? Okay. I have quite a few questions. To one of Gila's first points is the fact this is dual immersion and IB. And we know that there is no IB program for grades 9 and 10. But a parent, being brand new, might not know that. So I don't know if we want to state that somewhere, but there might be this all the way through thought process, and we probably should be upfront with that. I have a question under priority criteria for school placement as it relates to a child of an employee at the bottom of page 13. So just for clarity, because I have a bunch of questions the way this flows, does this language take into account if someone works in the district and their child is at one of our schools, that they will be provided the opportunity to go into a dual immersion or IB? Because it talks about, I kind of got the impression you were referring to, if a teacher is teaching at the dual immersion, their child could attend that dual immersion, but
Yeah, it says worksite, right? So it says, after all school of residence students have been placed, any child of an employee will be given priority placement at the employee's worksite. So for
yeah,
language
but if you
immersion,
work here at the district,
so then it wouldn't apply to you, right? So this would be, in terms of language
Oh.
immersion, this would be at
That's
the
only-
worksite. It would
so
be,
that's only if the employee works at a work site.
right, so in other words, if I'm a supervisor at a dual immersion site, after all the residents' kids go, and then we start moving to school of choice, because I'm an employee at that language immersion site, my kid will be given preference. To come to work with me, basically, before other school of choice, right? After resident. So kids who live in the boundary go first.
Okay,
After
so,
siblings.
so an employee who works somewhere in the district, and I'm going to use the district office for the example again, has a child and they want them, they're just right in there with any old parent that's going to opt for the school of choice to try and get their child in.
Yeah, there you go.
Not assigned.
Not assigned to,
So then this is the order,
so that's the order, so
Yeah.
that would come after the other three.
yes.
Okay, and so next to that one, I have a question. Do we have a cap in terms of how many IB or how many dual immersion? We probably do, but I don't know what it is.
No.
Not for IB. If it has the space.
It has space. It's never.
Has space.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it has
Yeah.
space. Okay. And I do think at the bottom of page 14, and obviously when this is actually printed, it may look differently, but for the IB program where we've got elementary and middle, you know, hanky listed, it seems to me you may as well put CVHS/SCHS for San Clemente. I mean, I know you've got it down here highlighted in pink, But it kind of makes sense that those are your two choices, hanky-hanky, and then it's either Kappa or, San Clemente. So back to the bottom of page 13. District students residing in any board-approved school attendance area shall be provided the. Then I go to the top of the next page, and it looks like a header. It's only.
Option, word option. Right at the option of.
Okay, because then it's a spacing issue. So then it's right underneath what's already been stated, and I'm like, it just seemed confusing in terms of the flow. Okay, so number 1, any siblings of a currently enrolled dual immersion or IB. If a sibling, so they get the first priority. Okay. And my last question is on page 15. It's in regards to the transportation. If the dual immersion or the IB school is a student's school of residence and the schools provide transportation, the student may qualify to receive district-provided transportation. Why? Because currently our transportation is provided for certain segments. And so why would we give this provision if it's just an everyday student and it happens to be in their area, but they're part of that program, we add them to it? Because what if that adds on that now it would require us 2 buses? I just wondered why why we're giving that provision to that student.
Great question. So let's take an example of a student that they don't want, or in San Clemente at like Las Palmas, and they decide they don't want to be part of a dual immersion program. Then we provide transportation to
And I get that.
Marblehead, and that's really what that entails, if I'm answering that correctly.
But this
Or-
says, if a student whose school of residence and the school provides transportation, that they're going to go to that school, the student may qualify to receive district transportation. It doesn't say if they're going someplace out of their district. I interpret
No, it says if parents living within a Spanish language immersion attendance area do not wish to have their child participate in the language immersion.
Yeah. Okay, but I need an answer to the first paragraph. If the language immersion or international baccalaureate school is a student's school of residence and the school provides transportation, the student may qualify to receive district-provided transportation.
May.
And only if the school already provided transportation.
But is it necessary? So name me the where we give free transportation. Those students are special ed,
Correct.
Title I.
Mhm.
If, and those that live out of the area and they want, yeah, so those are special requirements. But this student may just be an average Joe who lives in the area and you're going to provide them transportation. I just wondered why they get some special treatment that the other average Joe doesn't get.
A great question.
Maybe this
That we need to follow
paragraph
up on,
is
yeah.
not necessary.
Yeah, or just understand, if you have that student, it's,
Well, it's almost duplicative of this paragraph
next
below.
paragraph.
I think the next
Yeah.
paragraph below
Covers
covers it, and
which made it confusing to me.
Yeah,
It's
I
like,
think it
what
just
one
needs-
student gets, what about the other student?
check on this, Michael, but I think it just needs to be struck.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay, those were all my questions on this particular board policy.
On page 14, could we combine 1 and 2? Can we just say any sibling, meaning brother, sister, step brother, sister, put it all in one? Okay,
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be a separate number 2.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be, it sounds like it's,
And then for sure, I agree that we should have the San Clemente High School and Citrus Valley added on that same line. And anytime we can take out, I feel like we added a lot of words in a lot of these policies, so anytime we can condense it and make it cleaner, I'm in. Any other comments, questions on this policy? Right, thank you. Let's move on to 2A.
Thank you. So on to the second item, first read Board Policy 6141.4, International Baccalaureate Program. Dr. Meg Irvis is going to assist with this policy, and she will give you a quick overview.
Thank you. So this is a new policy. We did not previously have a standalone IB, International Baccalaureate policy within CUSD. The previous item we just went over, 5111.5, speaks to admission, matriculation, et cetera, of various specialized programs, including immersion and IB. This policy, 6141.4, speaks directly to our IB programs and includes language from what is coming next, which is the deletion of 6173. We wanted to move that language into a separate policy for IB and a separate policy for advanced placement AP, which will be coming as well. So we now are putting forward this standalone International Baccalaureate Program Board Policy, which did not previously exist. Any questions, comments, or feedback?
We have more questions. You want to go first? You can go first. No, I get to go first. Okay, starting with paragraph 1, in terms of, let's see, line number 5, disciplinary curriculum that provides the knowledge, concepts, skills, attitudes, and action. Attitude. What are we teaching there? What is that?
Cross-disciplinary curriculum is part of the IB program. And so it's like a humanities model where you're looking at history and English combined together and you're crossing the disciplines. That's what it is.
And that equals attitude? I'm asking about attitude. Concepts, skills, attitudes.
So in IB attitudes, they talk about how you think, right? So to think like a historian, to think like an English person. So those are the attitudes that they're talking about in IB. It's the way you approach the curriculum when you start crossing. So it's not attitude like the colloquial usage that we use, but it's attitude like how you think.
Okay, I thought, man, if we had some new program about attitudes, that should be schools.
In
all
every school.
schools, yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's like,
I need an explanation on that.
Yeah.
I mean, it says to equip them for successful lives. I thought, well, if we've got, teach them attitudes. Okay, moving right along. This conversation kind of came up recently. Meg, you probably will remember it. The whole discussion about IB versus AP, rigorous, challenging curriculum. Isn't it the same language in both AP and IB? Or, I mean, we know that IB has world views and projects that are different.
There
But-
are crossovers to AP language in the policies, yes.
Okay, so on the next paragraph, the superintendent or designee shall provide staff development and support to teachers of IB courses. My understanding is that IB is specialized, just like GATE is specialized. But I know that our teachers that teach GATE have got to have it in the HR record that they have gone through the training, certification, or whatever it is to teach GATE. But we don't have the wording in here about training. We've got staff development and support. Does that mean training to you
It does.
without using the word training?
Correct. And it can come in different forms. They could attend an IB conference. They could be mentored by a fellow IB teacher. They could be collaborating IB Marine Science at one school with IB Marine Science, where a more seasoned teacher is sharing information with a new teacher. So it comes in a lot of different forms.
Is that also like AVID? Or does AVID have to have something special like GATE does?
AVID also provides staff development, but there isn't a specific certification one has to have to teach in either of those courses. They just have to be prepared to deliver the instruction. And we can get there in a variety of ways.
For both and AVID. Mhm.
Okay,
You have to be GATE certified to be a GATE, but there is no IB certification, which is why the policy says that the superintendent designee will ensure that we provide that training to make sure that our teachers are meeting the standards of being highly qualified in those IB attitudes and other things they would teach, as opposed to GATE where you have to be GATE certified and or AP where you have to attend a certain AP training and every, I forget how many years you have to tell me about that, Meg, but you have to get yourself certified as an AP trainer or teacher after a certain period of time. You don't have to do it your first year. So They're all a little different, which is why we have to have the policy language be a little different.
Okay, and so in all of them, we always have superintendent designee, and the superintendent certainly can't be doing all this. So is this Meg or is this Bob, the designee?
This would be Meg and her department.
Meg, in your department. Okay, so like a teacher who's out of school and a gate opening opens up and that teacher wants to teach gate and they can't find the records that they've had gate training, but they know they've had gate training. So is there actually a file? Is it in the individual's HR record where that they've had some training, whether they've gone to something or whatever? How do we actually track this?
We track trainings in a couple different ways. We have a program called True North Logic that tracks any staff development that a teacher attends, so we can gather records. We also, if it's not a district, that's for district-hosted trainings. If it's not a district-hosted training, if it's an external training, we have in Informed K-12 the request to attend for any conference we've ever sent a teacher to. Well, now it's digital, it used to be paper, but yes, we track both internal and external staff development and training.
Okay.
But nothing goes into the personnel file, if that's your question.
Well, it is, and I'm frustrated with that from a management perspective because this teacher in CUSD was told, we don't have any record of it, so for you to teach it, you will now need to take gate training, and had been teaching it for years. My kids were in her class. So, you know, it's record keeping, and I think that we need to be very clean about if we have rules of what they have, that they have to.
We can't speak to the past, but with True North Logic and Inform K-12, we do now have digital records, so we would be able to go and search that up. I can't speak to what's happened
No,
years
I
before here,
recognize that,
but we have those systems
when I
now.
hear that you keep this record here, but you keep that record there, it also makes it difficult. You don't have it all in one spot, like, you know what that teacher in HR on their record, you know, has.
Is there a
So-
reason why we don't have it in HR, like in someone's file?
Bob,
Yeah, I
that's
think
you.
the work on uploading. Yeah.
In regards to the gate training, if it was done previous or prior to a certain date, we used to offer it in-house through the district, and they could earn a stipend for getting their gate certification. For those employees, we know who they are, we have tracked them. When there's a multitude of ways for people to get gate trained, not just our internal system that we had years ago, they can get trained through the county. They're probably online programs. There's probably a lot of ways that they can do that. They're not eligible for that stipend. It was specifically for our in-house training that we did. It was very robust. We trained all of our employees so they can earn a stipend. So we have a lot of employees who were trained years ago who get that. I think it's $250, but you know, that's a dinner out. So for anybody after that, it's really just, you know, a feather in their cap and a way in which they can teach gate classes at the elementary and middle school, I believe, level, yes. But I'm not sure that it's an actual legal requirement. It may be a district preference for our teachers to have that training in order to teach the classes. But I can give you, you know, examples of when that doesn't happen. An entire grade level retires at one time. You have gate students that come into that grade level. Those teachers need to get support in working with students who are gifted, but they might not be completely certified at that time. If you're looking at a staff and you're trying to determine who's going to be the teacher of those gate students, they certainly would prefer to have the one that has the training over someone that doesn't if they have a selection of people to choose from. But there are times when the teachers do not have full-fledged training and they do have gate students in their class, but then it's on us to support them and make sure that they're meeting the needs of those students. Hopefully that helps provide a little perspective.
Do we still offer that robust gate training?
No.
So now we rely on the other
We have to rely
options.
on all of the other options.
So if a
Which we don't
teacher,
track.
sorry, go ahead.
Which we don't track. So we have an expectation, we have a standard, because my understanding with GATE,
We do track it.
Yeah, we
It's
track.
not in their HR file because
stipend,
it's
it's
not
about whether
about being
they've
paid,
got the
but
credential.
there are ways through True North Logic. If we're, if we're aware that the trainings have happened, they may upload them into True North Logic. That's one tracking mechanism. We also have lists of teachers that are trained. And I know CNI,
We spent
the
the
Ed
last
division
several
keeps
years
that.
getting people trained. So most of our elementary teachers have gone through the training. Not all of this is a recent training, so it doesn't have the stipend, but many of our upper grade teachers, fourth and fifth grader teachers have that training. I think we were down to just a small handful that didn't. So if in the future we're able to provide that again, we will, but we
well,
didn't do it this year.
stipend's nice, but that is not my consideration. It's about the training and it's about record keeping.
So if a teacher wants to go to like a series that California Association for the Gifted offers or whatever, they could then come to you and say, put this in my record. But if they don't know there's a reason to do it, maybe they're not going to, right?
They would most certainly tell us so that they could then potentially be assigned to have GATE students if it was going to be the difference between them teaching the class and another teacher. They would say, hey, wait, I got training. I can,
The reason
I
we have
can do
different
that.
systems is we know what we're looking for, right? So we keep those trainings, so we know that we're looking for trainings, and it's in the trainings systems, and we query True North Logic and Inform K-12 to see what they did. It's kind of like the RTAs to attend conferences. That doesn't go in personnel files either, right? Personnel files are very specific in terms of what they have in terms of pay, credentialing, or criteria that leads to changes in pay, reprimand, right? Those types of things are in personnel files. Training, conferences, things you've attended that you've done, those don't live in your personnel file. Those live in those other systems. And in the past, I'll be very honest, a lot of districts had a hard time tracking those, which is why they would often do them in-house because it would be easier to track it. But we have two systems we can't. Now, if a teacher does something in summer and does not tell us about it, we're probably no match for that, right? We can't force them to tell us if they went to a summer training. Very few of our teachers go to summer trainings and don't either tell us or ask us to reimburse it or put in a request ahead of time. I get lots in June of requests to attend, those types of things. And as soon as we get those requests, now we have the record of them attending that training, right? So that's
So
how we
if you-
track it. So we can query any of those now, from this point.
Sorry, if you want to see if a teacher has been certified or trained, all you do is look up the teacher in True North Logic and it'll be there, right? It'll show what they've, okay, yeah. So that's sufficient to me.
Okay, my next question, which isn't HR focused. Number 4 on page 22, or if you're looking at page 1 of 2, demonstrate creativity. It's describing the IB program in terms of what they'll have in class, and it mentions 150 hours of artistic activities, physical activities, and community service. And then on the next page, it does go into, there can be an adjustment on the number of hours as it relates to community service. So just to get a perspective in terms of what's expected, of the 3, artistic, physical activities, or community service, is that looked at like a 3-way split, or it's just a total of 150 hours, whichever one you pick? Just kind of wonder.
It's a total, and it's an IB requirement. And so if a student is heavily involved in VAPA, those hours can count towards this athletics and community service.
Okay, and physical activities? I mean, if they're on the football team, does that count? What's
Will
physical?
count towards the hours for a fully rounded student, or
Oh,
well-rounded
okay,
student.
okay. I've got all kinds of notes. Let somebody else go, and I will come back to
Okay,
make
I have
sure
a
I'm
rookie
clear here.
question. Are you ready? IB is for what grade levels?
So we have a K-8 program at Hankey, so that exists.
Okay.
And then we have IB at 2 high schools, Capa Valley and San Clemente, and the program sits within 11th and 12th grade. So students take a typical freshman load, a typical sophomore load, and then they can opt in to take IB courses or pursue a full IB diploma, which is taking very specific courses in 6 domains. So it's really concentrated junior and senior year.
Okay.
And at the
And to be-
two,
I was going to be clear, in elementary and middle in the K-8 program, it's not different courses, right? It's just they do different projects, and they do some cross-curricular theme work that they do across, again, to get to that attitude of how do you think and how do you
Okay.
persevere and do these things. But it's not like they take an IB
Right.
different course with a different curriculum. They're using the same adopted curriculum that everyone else is using, K-8. So the IB is more of a way of being, whereas when you get to 11th and 12th grade, there are IB courses
Okay.
that would show up on your transcript.
Okay.
and how many students graduated with an IB diploma from our two?
In 2025, 27 students graduated with an IB diploma from Capo Valley and 23 from San Clemente.
Thank you.
My other question is I'm on page 22, under IB diploma program or IB career-related program. The district's IB diploma program shall offer comprehensive, rigorous 2-year program for students. To earn the IB diploma, students shall, and then it lists some things. For number 3, demonstrate an understanding of the theory of knowledge through an oral presentation and extended essay on an externally assessed, and can you explain number 3 to me?
So theory of knowledge, TOK, in the IB world is a specific course that students take. They have an extensive project. It's at least a year long, results in a very long essay and presentation, and it's called theory of knowledge, TOK. It's IB specific language.
All right.
And much like AP, it's externally assessed, right? So it's assessed against a norm out
Not
away from
us.
us, yeah.
Got it.
I have another question back to page 23, when it's talking about the cost of IB and students from lower income. Does anybody know what the average cost of taking the IB test is? Is it comparable to AP
It
tests?
is comparable, and there's a fee waiver for both types of tests.
Okay,
So a student can qualify for a fee waiver for an IB or AP test.
and Dr. Brown, do you know if we get federal monies to cover where we have covered the cost of low income? Is for federal funds to support the reimbursement of fees for low-income students? I just can't say I've heard that, or maybe I could ask Clark, where he is. But okay,
Not specific federal funds, but we do set aside funds from LCFF supplemental for any additional costs that are incurred, that we cover those costs, both at
So
the
it comes out of
IB and the
supplemental.
advanced placement.
okay.
Yeah, I would remind that often federal funds don't cover what they were intended to cover, right? They're always short of their own mandates.
Okay. And then on the last paragraph that is in black print, before you hit the red, the superintendent or designee shall regularly report to the board regarding the number of students participating in the IB, blah, blah, blah. I don't remember that we get that regularly, or maybe this is a new system in place, but might we want to say what month of the school year that's going to be?
Brand new policy. So
Yeah.
you definitely didn't have it before because
Well, it's a new policy, but maybe you've been doing it and including it in this new policy.
yeah, we will be hearing about IB, but we usually wait till the end of the year, till the numbers are set. So it would be a fall report. So
Okay.
similar in timeline to when we did our AP report this last year, August, September, somewhere in that zone, once we get the definitive numbers, like Meg just gave you, of how many kids actually went through the program. So your report we just given, we had, what was it, 26 and 23, 27 and 20? 27 and 23 kids get through the IB program this year. 27 at Capo Valley with an IB diploma, right? It's not it's a small program. It's not widely participated in as compared to AP. IB is bigger in other parts of the country, to be very honest. It's bigger in other districts, and it's bigger in other parts of the world. IB exists throughout the globe. It doesn't just exist in the US. So it's bigger elsewhere. It's small here.
So in Capo Valley, in total, we had 251 students enroll in NIB course. At San Clemente last year, it was 387. But it's, many students will take an IB course to pursue the diploma. It definitely puts them in a very specific track. They have fewer options because an IB class might be fourth period, but they love this other thing they wanted to do in fourth. So it's a very specific group that will pursue the entire diploma, but those are the numbers of enrolled.
On average.
I don't have that information. And we also dual enroll. So in some cases, an IB and an AP course have similar content, and so we'll have a full class, but they may be pursuing IB, they may be pursuing AP, and then we have students who are going to do both.
Yes, we try not to run classes that are tiny, 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 right? So that's when we would dual roster the class to make sure that the seats per teacher stay high enough to be feasible.
So like an environmental studies, that you can do it as an AP student and IB student. You can ultimately take both tests if you really want to.
So on this subject, I have one more comment. So in the fall, when you report the results of IB, could we also hear, since we only have one K through 8, a middle school that has IB, and then there is no 9th, 10th, so you would have to kind of put it on your calendar. I would like to know, because I've asked this all along, is how many of our Hankey students who predominantly go to Capo, but maybe they go to San Clemente, then those IB students pursue and continue to get that IB in their 11th and 12th, because it's my understanding from Dina Kuba at Capo, we lose a lot of students because it's not 9, 10, and then they take other things, and then it's like, well, should I want to go back? And kind of got happy with other stuff. So
It was 4 last year. So 4 Hankey students graduated with an IB diploma.
So my question always remains, for the expense of the IB program, to have it at one school, I know that was a draw, and that was something given to Hankey,
So-
but what we spend on it and what the continuity of it for the student and all.
So I think
is like
that's
measuring
a
it.
different discussion than the one we probably should be having around the policy, right? As the
Okay, I'm
policy.
just throwing it out there
goes
that
in.
they could report on that, because it mentions the reporting.
Yes,
Thank
and we will definitely be bringing that up because it is a question in a dwindling budget. What do we fund and what do we not fund? But as we're deleting a policy later, and that policy did speak to IB, we had to add a policy to speak to IB because we do currently have it.
How many students were at Hankey that earned the IB? Well, at
4.
8th grade, it was 4? I mean, yeah.
There's no
eighth-
diploma, that they
Well, I know
went
it's not a
on and
diploma.
graduated with the diploma in 12th grade, 4.
But how many students at Hankey were part of the IB program?
100%.
41.
But how?
41 students started high school.
Correct. The number is 41 from 8th grade, finished with an
Capo.
IB. They all
No.
did. And not a diploma, that they.
Oh, finished there, but then went on to get a high school
Only
IB
4.
diploma.
Only 4
okay.
of the 41.
Okay.
Right, thank you.
Oh, 68, sorry. They didn't all go to Capo Valley. Yep. 41 went to Capo Valley, sorry.
So, again, I read through these things and I'm trying to figure out the logic. So in the second paragraph of this policy, the superintendent or designee shall ensure the district students of all ability levels are offered opportunity to participate in the program if it is available at their school. At Hankey, you don't have that choice. You are doing it. So I think that needs to be about high school.
I think what it's referencing is we would not exclude a student from Hankey or the high school program.
Right.
Just based on that.
Right,
So
but it kind of sounds like there's like a choice at Hankey to either do IB or not, and there is no choice. If you go to Hankey, you're in the IB program. So it's not like we're giving the opportunity to participate. We're
So
giving-
again, this is one of those where they're protected from us, right? So that we can't say, we know you're at Hankey, but you're not gonna do IB. It's so that you're there, you
Right,
can do
right.
it.
But this, we could talk, this could be about high school. It doesn't have to say all students, it could say all high school students. Okay,
It's just to say that.
okay,
It's not
Um,
about choosing.
right,
they
there
could
is no
still-
choice.
Right, but what I'm saying is there's always a choice. Always a choice of. Yes, there's no choice at
There's no
Hankey.
choice
They'd
at
have to go
Hankey.
to a
They
different
can
school.
opt out.
Right.
Okay. All right, okay,
So if a student, not that,
Correct.
yes.
right.
And they'll get free transportation. Only if they're what? Okay, so if it,
Okay, so I feel like the paragraph that says IB diploma program or da-da-da, I understand that a diploma is high school, but it seems to me this ought to call out high school. Then towards the end, when we mentioned, we were talking about federal funds, you're saying apply to the California Department of Education for federal funds. It seems to me it should just be funds, because CDE is not giving you federal funds. Then I'm just a little bothered by, in the, I think it's the, second last paragraph in the red, implement enabling programs. Enabling has come to mean a different thing than, now maybe this is a term of art in education, I don't know. But it doesn't seem,
Red one.
on page
On page
23, second to the last, yeah. Yeah, right. Enabling is like, you're enabling that behavior. It has a negative connotation to me. I liked empowering better, but I'm not gonna, it's not a hill I'm gonna die on. Fine. Whatever.
Yes, it's word for
Right,
word
and
from
I'm
the.
gonna bring it up in the other policy too.
Absolutely.
Okay, fine. That's fine.
Perfect.
Okay, fine.
I agree with Gila. I think the district, back to that IB diploma program, IB career-related program, it would be good to say a rigorous high school two-year program, or a two-year, like 10th, 11th and 12th,
Yep.
11th and 12th grade.
We'll add high school.
Because when I read it, I'm like, what, any 2 years? You know what I mean? Yeah.
I'd also like to add that somewhere in here, it says that we don't have an IB program in 9th and 10th. I don't think that's in here. So if we
So
could add that
two-year
somewhere.
program beginning in 11th
Beginning in
grade.
11th
Yep.
Okay, great. And if it's okay with the board, and if this works with staff, on any of the deletions, if we could just skip right over it? Is that fair? Okay. Any other questions on this? All right, let's move on to 4A. First reading board policy 6141.5, advanced placement.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so long-
No questions
that
or
works for everyone?
feedback.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then moving on then to Board Policy 6141.5, Advanced Placement. Again, Meg's going to lead us through this one.
So thank you. This is an existing board policy, 6141.5 for advanced placement. The only change is the addition of the language from deleted or potentially deleted depending on action tonight, Board Policy 6173. So you'll see those 3 paragraphs in red. It's the same information that is at the end of the IB policy. So that is the change to this policy being recommended based on a conversation at the previous
And
board meeting.
we will bring over the same comments about enabling and those sorts of things. So we will take the same comments from the IB and bring them over into the AP and strike that language and clean it.
Any comments, questions on this one? Okay, thank you. Moving on to 5A, and that's solutions, so we're skipping that one and moving on to 6. Supplemental instruction.
Okay, thank you. So item 6, first read board policy 6161.11, supplementary instructional materials. Mr. Brad Shear is going to help provide an overview, and then we look forward to your feedback.
All right, good evening, everyone. So this is addressing the supplemental materials policy, which was last adopted in 1999. The policy that we're likely to strike, assuming approval, has some interesting things in that one, so I missed the opportunity to address those. But they brought back fond memories from when I was in the classroom in the 90s. So this one does address the issue of supplementary instructional materials, and we are looking to clarify what is expected for teachers when they're using supplementary instructional materials. And some of the board policy specifically indicates that some of the criteria that you see struck in board policy 61, 6111 is included in accompanying administrative regulation, which we've also been working on to support and provide to our teachers. So I'll open it up for questions.
I have a question on, in red print, the 3rd paragraph, the superintendent or designee may provide training to administrators and leaders. That word may, it always gets me. May, they may, and they may not. So why do we use the word may? I mean, it would seem to me that if it's in here, we want to give them the training and go through the evaluation supplementary instruction. So
We
it's
generally
a
use
word.
shall and may. Shall means we are going to do it. We're going to do it, no doubt about it. May is,
We may not.
we may and we may not.
So part of it is
We
we
may
may
not.
or we may not have money. We may or may not have teachers who haven't already been trained. We may or may not allow principals to provide the screening. So there's a lot of, we'll go there, when you say shall, you are now making that a required training for every teacher in the district. That is a big statement, a big financial statement. It's a statement that usually has to be bargained, or the effects of it have to be bargained if you're going to say this is mandatory training every year, every 2 years, every 3 years. So there's a lot that goes in there, and that's why the AR comes alongside it, and we train our principals on what to look for and how to support their teachers, right? So,
And you can't use wording like recommend if possible?
and I think
mean,
that's what may
recommend
is, right?
may.
Like, so the idea of may is it puts it at that so that we can get that done. But if we end up in an 0809 situation, or we end up in, we have everyone trained, we don't have to do it, just to do it for no reason.
Or maybe may provide as needed. Does that help you, Judy?
Okay, well, I'm not going to fight over you liking the word may. It just leaves it open for may not to me, and that's not in my vernacular.
Other questions?
I'm just trying to compare the 3, what might have formerly been requirements stricken, that it's the same thing as in line 1, 2, 3, very abbreviated. That is the same.
And it'll be a lot more detailed in the AR. So the AR that goes for how a administrator would do this, right? So this is what, and then the how becomes the AR. So the how is, what does the pre-screening look like? You know, what are the requirements for pre-screening? How would a principal approve or not approve a particular type of supplemental material? So that all would live in the AR, which follows on from the board policy.
And I would include too, Trustee Bouloukis, that there are actual forms in the AR.
Yeah.
A form for the teacher to ask for permission from the principal. It needs to be signed off and formalized, and then a form for parents to notify them, and then also saying if you do not agree, there's an alternative assignment provided. So all that very detailed in the AR, and the AR will be on the website for the public to see.
It will be public, yeah.
The AR will be public?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
that's what, because currently our ARs aren't public to my knowledge.
We're
We are
including more and
slowly,
more.
yeah, we are adding them as we go through them, as we update them, as the board policy gets updated, then we then make the commensurate
Okay.
updates to AR, and we're putting them on the website for the public.
Oh, that's
It'll
great
be very
news.
clear for the
That's
public.
great news.
Understand my leaning is, you know, this whole thing, we're taking that language out and we go right to complaints. So if the parent doesn't know about the AR, and they don't see this, it's like, oh.
Right, so should this get approved
Writing
on
complaints.
consent in the next board meeting, then the AR would follow on and go public with, as well as the parents could then see what the form looks like, the opt-out, all of that stuff, that all goes public.
The minute it's
Very good.
public and anything that's getting cleaned up, we will add the AR and it will be moving forward. And then we're
Yes, as we-
adding ARs as we go on ones that have not been cleaned up or?
Yeah, we're working on the cleanup ones first, right? So that's why that's why we put 27 ambitiously on the schedule for tonight, was so we can
We are on 7.
continually clean these things
I
up.
would also say for the public, it's very easy to find in the policies, the policy and the error is right underneath it. And we match the number system is now the same and not different the way it was in the past. So very clear, board policy, administrative regulation, right there for the public to see.
Now that we're doing A.
And I see that we're adding the ed codes in here. And I was looking up the ed codes and what exactly is covered under those. It's kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, where's the page? I came in late, but the Education Code 243 was supposed to be copied and given to each of us. I didn't get mine.
No one did. Waiting for this.
Oh, and here we are. Thank you.
Was the last updated 1998?
For,
Policy,
There
99.
didn't used to be
For
a
ed code?
243.
no, 2024, 243 was updated, I believe, in 2024.
Well,
2020,
Ed code
In-
Title
sorry,
I.
2023, October of 2023 was when it
Yeah,
was
prior to that,
updated.
there was no 243.
One of the reasons we also have to move through our policies is ed code changes, and then we have to make commensurate changes.
This is a copy of 243. Just because it's.
Any other comments on this item? Okay. And let's see, I think 7A is up. Okay, we'll go to 7A. Title I programs. Dr. Gomez? I
Yes,
bet?
thank you, yep. And Dr. Gomez, good guess. He'll be leading this item. Go ahead, Michael.
This policy was last visited in 1999, so prior to No Child Left Behind,
26
which
years
doesn't
ago.
exist anymore. And so we were updating the language to reflect the current federal regulations and statutes, including the LCAP, which didn't exist in 1999.
Right, when did the LCAP come into effect?
Started, I want to say 2012, 13, right in that area. I know it was a phase in of that.
So what is, I know what ed code is and all these, what is 20 USC 6318? Is this something from USC as in the
6321.
college?
No, the U.S. Code of, it's the actual
Yeah,
federal
final.
regulations that, yeah, it's the U.S. Code, the federal legislation where ESSA lives in.
And USC stands for?
U.S.
United
Code,
US Code.
United States Code.
United States Code. Okay. And where would I find that? On the internet, I suppose, but it's like not in the education code book?
It's not in that, it's a great Google search, that's how I find it, because it's massive. Yeah.
Uncle Chad?
Okay,
Just
all right.
verify with chat. It
Trust
doesn't
the
always
trust
pull
but
from the most
verify.
reliable sources. I've read some chat that's like, oh, that's not great.
Questionable. Far
No,
from
he's not all right.
questionable.
But always, you can always just send us an email and we will send you a vetted Google search for you.
Give you its source, and you can click on the source.
Yes. That's how I know some of it's been nonsense.
I do want to give a positive. That first paragraph that's been deleted in the second paragraph, very good change.
Oh.
The language and how it's being presented. So my question is in regards to instructional staff for Title I. I'm really confused by, on the page 44, salary expenditures. Why would we pay Title I teachers differently than any other teacher that we have in the district?
We don't, but we're required under federal statute to make sure that there's comparability and all of our stuff. So our actual fiscal services team does a fabulous job of calculating what does every teacher in the district make, what does it look like at a Title I school, and all of those different factors to make sure that Title I schools are not disadvantaged and
Like
those
we're not
kinds of
throwing
things.
all of our brand-new teachers at
Correct.
a Title I school.
There you go.
that
Absolutely,
It's
yes.
differentiated by, but it's similar as the other schools. Got it.
Well, why don't they just use average, which would give you the average, but the 90 to 110, I just wondered how they came to that. So the average between 90 and 110 is 100%, so that means the same?
Our fiscal services team does an amazing job of calculating that literally teacher by teacher, school by school for those analysis and the documents that we upload as part of the consolidated application.
And they're two different things, right? So A is the 110. The 110 is instructional staff to ratio, right? So that's making sure that we don't understaff Title I schools, and then the other one's pay. So it's making, it basically those two combined, make sure that we don't say, all new teachers with classes that are all over their maximums are at our Title I schools, so they would make less and have higher ratios. So even if those ratios would, let's say, fall within ed code and contractual ratios, if they're more than 110% of everyone else's ratios, we can't do that at a Title I school, right?
Okay, so I understood where they were going, because in the paragraph after number 5, in determining the comparability, they don't want to use the differentials. So they're trying to get to the base
Yes.
of comparison. Oh, and I do have what I would consider a correction. On the last page, program evaluation. It states, which I don't see anywhere else, the board shall regularly monitor the progress. I think that's the superintendent or designee who does that and then reports to the board?
Yeah.
Like the superintendent or designee shall provide the board and the community with regular reports?
Yeah, I think some of the federal programming wants to push on the board to make sure you do it. So basically, it's to make sure that you tell me I have to bring those, which is why you see things like we show our Title I report, right? We show our low SES broken out every time we do data. It's to meet some of these federal requirements. So it's not up to me, it's up to the board. So it's the board shall.
So you
That's why
want-
it's shall and not may.
You want each of the 7 of us to then request this information?
No.
I mean,
No, I'm
Can
doing
we-
it, it just makes it so you don't, if I didn't do it, you have to force me to.
But could we change the language
Yeah,
that
it
says
doesn't
the
match any
superintendent
of
shall
the other-
provide the board
board policies,
on a regular basis?
putting us responsible for getting this information.
I would say the large, vast majority of all of this data is documented very thoroughly in our LCAP, because that's where we hold ourselves accountable as a district at the state level and the federal level. So all of those particular student achievement metrics across the California dashboard are detailed and very detailed.
But short answer, we
explanation in
can,
that.
as long as there's no legal reason why we can't, we'll change.
Okay.
Because I would then contest and say, if it says that you are going to, on a regular basis, give us IB updates, why wouldn't it be the same of giving us, Title I?
And one is a board policy, so you guys are saying you want the IB updates, that's not actually mandated anywhere. So in that other piece that we talked about, where the superintendent designee shall report on IB, that's you guys saying you want to report on IB and putting in policy, because it is not federally nor state mandated that I give you an IB update. This is federally mandated that you are monitoring it. That's why the language is different. This isn't at the discretion of the designee. It's not really at the discretion of the board. So by putting the language that says the superintendent designee, that means the board is taking discretion to make the superintendent do it. And the federal statute is saying you don't have discretion. You have to do it as a board. You have to look at it.
If we could change that language, I would like it. I agree with trustee Volkes that I would like the language to say something to the effect of, the superintendent shall provide the board.
I mean, I know I've asked for IB information before. I don't remember the 7 of us getting together and saying, we want this information. Did I miss that meeting?
But this
You
is
don't
all-
have to
this
say
is-
it, I just do it.
I think this is all coming not from us. This is copy and
This is
paste.
federal.
This is the federal language.
Right.
This is the federal language for Title I. It's not the federal language for IB.
There is no federal language for IB.
And you stated that we asked for it. I'm saying.
No, I'm saying that's what the policy is. So the policy is how you ask for it, right? So you could have said, hey, you know what? While we were looking at policies today, we don't want you to give us an IB report. So let's go ahead and strike that from the policy. And you could choose to strike that from the policy.
You were hoping that was going to happen.
I was not. You cannot choose to strike this from the policy.
Okay, I get that.
Right,
but
so that's
I
why,
just-
that's not federally mandated.
I just don't, yeah.
But could we change the language? I guess that's my ask of staff, is
If
if we
we
can
can-
find
and I
out
said
if we
if
can
we
change
can,
the
we-
language. Other questions, comments?
Okay.
Trustee Pritchard? Well, I saw you, I thought you were gonna have to add something. Okay, great. Oh, I'm not asking you, I'm certainly not asking you to get rid of it, but I certainly don't think that we would be gathering, monitoring, but we will be monitoring as we hear about it on an annual basis. We will, through the LCAP.
Nobody's asking you not.
I'm not sure we can, but I'll check. I don't think we can.
We'll look.
But we'll look into it.
Okay, any other comments? Okay. And moving on to 8A, first reading board policy, education for English learners. Guessing that's
This
Dr. Jones?
particular board policy, we're just updating some of our language for English learners. Actually, it is also part of our FPM Federal Program Monitoring Review that will happen. So we just are making sure our language is consistent on the federal level. One, with our Title I programs that we were looking at, but this falls under the Title III portion of federal accountability. So we're just updating language for that to make sure our policies reflect the most current language in federal policy.
Any comments?
I have a simple, just quick question. On page 50, in the highlighted paragraph that starts however, an English learner, down on line 3, it says it's designed to develop the basic English language of a newly arrived immigrant student. I thought we don't ask for citizenship or whatever. How do we know they're an immigrant?
We know that information because we find out, the parent indicates on the home language survey when they are first time in school in the United States. And based on what date they indicate, then we know if they're a newly arrived student. So we don't ask them, what is your status or what is your legality? It's when was the first time you entered a school in the United States? And if it's within a 3-year window, then we know that they're newly arrived to the country for that. So it's not a direct immigrant question, it's an indirect way of assessing that.
And it doesn't ask for their immigrant status. It doesn't ask for any proof. So you could have someone who's an English-only family, born here, raised here, who said, nope, never entered school here until
Yeah, that's
third
what
grade. But if you say that and say your home language is something other than English, then you fall under this category. So that's why the language says it was developed for that reason. But anybody who meets the criteria on the home language survey automatically falls in here, right? Now, we don't ask what kind of an immigrant are you, where'd you immigrate from, any of that stuff.
And I
So-
recognize that.
So
That's why I
that's,
was like,
yeah,
why are
yeah.
we using
But
the
it's
word
just, are you basically newly enrolling in school in the US and don't speak English as your first language, right? Those are the two things that come on the home language survey. I'll tell you from experience, if you actually mess that up, it becomes hard to undo it. So if a parent was like, yeah, English isn't their first language, and it is the kid's first language, it becomes very hard to come back on that. So we try to be very careful with that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just had, tried to understand that.
Are we offering parent, guardian, and community involvement in the development and evaluation programs and for English learners? How is that?
Yes, two ways. We do that at the site level with the ELACs.
Yep.
And then at the district level, we do that with our district English Language Advisory Committee. So those are the ways we would do that.
And do we have good
It depends, especially our DLAC. This room has been very full. So it just depends on the time of the year. Hopefully it's not falling on certain dates, but this room has been packed out with parents for our DLACs. And that's because of the hard work of our BCLs to kind of bring people along in that process and bring them here.
Love that.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's been
a great
amazing.
program.
That was actually my question, Trustee Davis. Thank you for asking it. One other question I had in that paragraph, Judy's favorite word, may. It says the superintendent or designee may also provide an English development literacy training program for parents and guardians. Do we do that? Do we offer that?
We,
Well, some of our schools do. I know that Las Palmas does.
Really?
yes, some of the schools do. We don't do it as a district per se.
District-wide.
Right, but we also have partnered with the Parent Institute for Quality Education, PIQUE, at a number of our schools for probably 15 years now as a district. So they take turns in going to different schools, different levels, elementary, middle, high school, and they have whole family literacy programs and family involvement ones. It was very successful, I want to say the past 2 years at San Juan Hills High School. That comes to mind very quickly. Big participation at that school
great.
for those. And they have different ones. Capital Valley, I think, is going to be doing like a bridge to college kind of program and orienting parents on what does that look like. Or at an elementary school, they might be doing family literacy or things around math content. So it's different by level.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you.
Other questions? Which page are you on?
Oh, sorry, it's crossed out. I'm on page 51. So in a crossed out section, for students who have home language, blah, 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 students within a 30 calendar day of enrollment to determine, do we still have that 30-day requirement?
That's testimony.
Yes, it's the
Oh, it's the
LPAC requirement.
Okay, thanks.
All right, and then 9A deletion, moving on to 10A.
All right, 10A, first
Evaluation.
reading, 6190, evaluation of instructional program. Michael's going to keep going.
And this one, as soon as we were looking at language in Title I and our consolidated programs and all of those, this was a redundant policy that was not, 190 is the one. We're revising that to bring that up to current standards. Sorry, I mixed that up with the next one. This is just updating the language one so that we're ready for federal program review, so that our policy reflects the most current statutes, but also takes some of the elements in one that we're recommending for deletion into this one. So putting it into one policy and updating instead of having two separate policies for that.
And in the first paragraph after the deletions, conduct a continual evaluation of the curriculum in the instructional program. Just kind of ongoing, that a couple times a year, or?
I would offer that formally we do that every February when we're providing you the English learner evaluation of our programs.
Right.
So that's our formal annual report, and then we do it as needed throughout the other presentations.
And I would say informally, it happens all the time.
And then, yeah, that's just with the regular report and student achievement and.
Well, and
the ongoing.
internal reports that go back and forth, visits to the sites, data pulls that our leaders go, our PLC work, right? So that all falls into the evaluation of the instructional program, and the push towards higher quality. And so we by having this policy aligned, but if we need to, if a federal auditor looks, we have lots of data to show that it's been presented not only to the board, but to parents through multiple modalities, to principals, to students, to teachers repeatedly throughout the year.
Any other comments, questions on this one? Okay, and 11A is a deletion. Okay, thank you very much. And we're moving on to HR. Let's go, Mr. Presby. Doesn't he have doctor? Dr. Presby, please join us up here. Greg Merwin and team, thank you so much. Dr. Bob, if we could please get that adjusted, Dr. Bob. Well, hello, HR team. Okay, we're on policy 4113, assignment.
Thank you. So HR brings 4113 assignment. This is an update to our current board policy that ensures the district has a policy on that our teachers are correctly assigned based on their credential area. We report any misassignments and how we plan to correct that. Our current policy has a lot of work as far as an administrative regulation for teachers to teach in departmentalized classes where they don't already hold a credential. That's being moved to the AR, and we're providing that tonight as well.
You're providing the AR tonight?
We're showing you the AR, so
Yeah.
whenever we move anything from a policy into an administrative regulation, we want the board to be aware of where that will go.
Yeah.
And as Dr. Merwin said earlier, that is also posted on the site, so our employees know if they are looking to get reassigned to a class they don't have a credential for, there is a way through departmentalized classes they're able to accomplish that.
I have a question. I'm so sorry. I don't know the lady on the end
Oh.
name and there's no tag. And I probably should know you and maybe I've met you before, but,
This is Carrie McDade. She's our executive assistant in Human Resource Services.
oh, great.
Actually,
Thank
the
you for
one
being-
who is responsible for putting all of this together, keeping us organized. So thank you.
Yes.
Carrie.
Bless you.
Yes, thank you. I have a question on the first one, right? 4113. The page 76, the last paragraph, it has a little bit of the purple strikeout. It's about the Board of Trustees authorizes the establishment of a committee on assignments. Who would be on the committee? Would that be a mixture of like HR and maybe Meg Irvis, or just wondered, without maybe specific names, but like, would there be one from different areas?
Right, and the Teachers Association. So we do have members from there too. And it's a policy and the AR is recommended, so we have it. All of our teachers teach within their credential area. We never use this policy because we have enough qualified teachers. This would be in a situation where probably a rural area, you weren't able to find somebody. They have to have some college coursework and some experience in a subject area. Then the committee could approve them to teach that, really until they earn the credential themselves.
Could this situation happen if the credentialed teacher was out on maternity leave and we needed a replacement that had the credential? I mean,
Yeah.
there might be a case?
Yeah,
Yes, no?
generally on a leave, we'd bring in a substitute and they would have the credential in that area. Yeah. For the long term.
Yeah, this is really in the event that we suddenly have a teacher shortage that impacts us, like we have had in previous times in history where you now have alternate means to get teachers in classrooms that are qualified as they, or as qualified as they can be if you're struggling to find employees. We don't have that problem right now, which is very, very nice, but the policy's there in case we do.
It's that third paragraph down on page 78.
So that is part of our oversight of charters that we do through Carrie, and when I go visit every charter every single year, and Carrie goes with me, they have to submit a report that says that they're in compliance with this.
Correct, and we also submit any misassignments they have to the
Yes.
OCD or County Department of Education for their review.
And then we give them a letter to correct. as well. So
So this is one piece of information they do give us.
they are supposed to, yes.
Okay.
And if they don't, we ask and get it, right?
If they don't, we send them a letter to correct. So, and then that can move the chain if it has to, but we haven't had this problem.
Great.
Okay.
Other
Any
comments?
Other questions?
Moving on to B2, evaluation supervision.
All right, and Laura Lyon, our Assistant Superintendent, will take this one.
Okay, so this is Board Policy 4115, Evaluation Supervision. It's to update our current board policy, which it's been 24 years since this policy has been updated, since 2001. As you can see, we have added quite a bit to this board policy so that we can have the ed code in regards to how we evaluate our teachers. So we present 4115 for your reading pleasure with the updated language.
The second paragraph on page 87, I like the verbiage on that second sentence. Needs improvement are identified. The board expects employees to accept responsibility for improving their performance and encourages them to take initiative, request assistance as a, like the new language on that.
Thank you.
Trustee Walkus?
Yeah, I have one question, and it's probably the next paragraph. The superintendent or designee shall assess the performance of certificated instructional staff. The designee, why do we not name the principal? Because really, that's the direct report.
Because it's not always the principal. Sometimes it's an assistant principal. If it's a TOSA, it could be an assistant superintendent. So depending on where the teacher is and who their direct supervisor is, there's a number of positions that could.
Okay, other than the principal or
Yeah, so that's
AD.
why we use designee.
See,
So-
isn't that an easy answer?
Trustee Hager?
So my question was if this section right under that with the following criteria, those 4 criteria, if this wasn't in the other policy, where was this?
This is the current ed code, so that's why it's in here now.
I don't know where it was 26
We don't know where it
years
was
ago.
24
I'm
years
just
ago.
wondering, I mean, I know this is how they're evaluated, but it wasn't in this particular policy. Was it in a different policy? Okay.
They do outline some of,
26
some of the
years later.
criteria is outlined in our collective bargaining agreement, however.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Any other questions, comments? Great,
So
thank you.
I, I'm sorry.
Trustee Jones, go ahead.
I have a question on the last page. Evaluation of, shall not include the use of publishers' norms established by standardized tests. This is probably just ed code, but I have no idea what that is. I'm just curious. I assume we don't do this. It just has to be there.
It would be, to use like an old, one of the testing, like testing results. So you cannot use publishers' tests to evaluate teachers.
Like the
So
CBEST. We can't use the
No.
CBEST, for example.
any of those, we used to give tests in our district before. They could not be part of the teacher's evaluation.
CBEST is a teacher.
So you can use students' progress towards district standards and you'd have multiple measures, but you can't use a publisher's item as a teacher evaluation tool, right? So you couldn't say, well, I'm not looking at all this. I'm going to say, look at just your iReady scores, and that's what I'm evaluating you on. We can't do that. Yeah, we would have to have we would have multiple measures of district standards and how we're meeting district standards. So that's why when we look at data, we look at growth data across everything. And really, when we look at teaching evaluation, we look at their use of curricular objectives, their use of instructional strategies, right? Those types of things make a much bigger role of their, as opposed to a publisher test result.
And our
CBEST.
evaluation tool is actually designed around that. So it's all about progress, the student's progress, and that's what they have to write their evaluation and specify how their students have progressed. So that's all in that bullet point number 1.
So I became aware of CBEST when my son took the test to become a teacher. But I thought that was just to get in. Is this
Yeah.
something that they take on a regular?
No.
Yeah, it's just the initial. Why would we use that for an evaluation then?
We wouldn't.
We
because
wouldn't.
You can't. I just gave us an example.
All right, this is for 117.3 personnel reduction. This is updating our current policy to be in alignment with education code, and it also aligns with our collective bargaining agreement with CUEA.
So as usual, I'm trying to deflect from the board. Why isn't this the superintendent? Why is it Board of Trustees reduce the number? I mean, we're supposed to be the policymakers and superintendent runs the district.
But you authorize the reduction.
Authorize it, but that's approval. This,
Right, we make the recommendation to the board, but the board has the right to approve it or deny
not.
that recommendation.
Yeah, you're the ones who actually do the reduction in staff. All I do is bring you a proposal of which staff to reduce or why we would reduce staff. And then
I
you do
get
that.
that, but to me, it should read that. I mean, it makes it seem like we're coming to you and saying, we think you need to reduce the staff. I mean, how would,
I think this comes to like, we talk about fiscal oversight, policy oversight, staffing oversight. These are roles of the board, right? I'm the one who carries out the work, but it's actually the board's
happen unless
role.
we approve
It doesn't happen without you at all, right? So that's sort of the idea is, this isn't the role of the superintendent, it's the role of the board, right? For fiscal, health of the district, for policies, right? It's just same with policies, like the board approves policies. I don't. I bring them, the team brings them, but it's only the board can approve or ask for edits for policies. Only the board can reduce staff. Only the board can hire a superintendent, those types of things.
Paragraph on determination of order of layoffs, if it's in the inverse order in which they were employed by the district. And is it a timestamp if it happened to be that it would be 6 out of 20 people in one day? Is it
The same
timestamp?
day, they all have the same seniority date. And then later in the section would determine that it comes down to the district need based on the specific.
Right, I
part.
read that in the next one, yeah. But it wouldn't be just based on if they.
So it's not a
Today's
timestamp, it's the day.
Yeah, and some of this may be contractual. Oh, I'm sorry, well, 98 and 99, are we in this one? Yes. I'm sorry, am I in the wrong
yeah,
I'm in
we're
the-
not at 98 yet.
I'm ahead, never mind.
We can move to that one.
Start right there on 4B.
Oh, back. Yeah, so that is if there was a reduction in, so it's lack of funds would be what we would say in a reduction in that case. That's when the money that your ADA didn't increase, your average daily attendance, and therefore you're not going to receive the funds you were planning on. You could then do a reduction, which would basically be a lack of funds, not necessarily a lack of work in that case.
Disciplinary action.
All right, and that's Laura.
Okay, so this proposed revision to our board policy of 4118, this is to clarify our discipline process for certificated employees, including the procedures for non-performance of duties, what happens in the event or how they receive an unpaid suspension or potential dismissal from employment. This is another policy that was last updated in 2001, so it was definitely in need of some current language and process. As you
I
can
don't
see.
have a question, but I just want to make a statement that I appreciate separating unsatisfactory performance from unprofessional conduct because we go about that differently. And so appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes,
Um,
a nook
and
and a
then
nub.
How about on monitoring PIPs? Is there language in here? Did I miss it?
in the contract. We have an entire a section, multiple pages long in our collective bargaining agreement on program improvement plans. It's very prescriptive. Timelines, how long they can be on them, what's required, follow up, follow through.
Yeah, program improvement plans are a bargained item, so they're just in the contract.
No, this is where I had questions. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm a little confused about some of 98, 99, and maybe even 100. So if we're just saying, well, let's say it's unprofessional conduct, but it's not the egregious misconduct. I don't know, it's not egregious, but it's unprofessional. So we vote and give notice to suspend or dismiss at the expiration of 30 days. So that means that the best we can ever do, unless it's egregious misconduct, is to give them a 30-day notice of this. They can't be immediately terminated. Okay. And is that with pay or without pay, or does it matter? Or is it up to us?
It would depend on what the employee's infraction was. Some can
Okay.
go unpaid. The majority would be paid for that 30 days.
Okay.
Is that in some policy somewhere?
Ed code. Yeah. Most of the dismissal and suspension action for certificated employees is all governed by education code. That's what drives this policy.
Okay, and then when we get over to the page 99, pending suspension or dismissal proceedings with this egregious misconduct, immoral conduct, conviction or felony, is any of that without notice or with a shorter notice? Or do we again also give 30 days notice on that?
So can you repeat the question?
Okay, so on page 99, I guess the third paragraph from the bottom, pending suspension or dismissal proceedings, and this is an employee charged with egregious immoral conduct, conviction of a felony, crime involving moral turpitude, so that's also a 30-day notice sort of a thing?
So that would be an employee we would put on leave immediately. And then depending on the act, could be unpaid or paid.
Okay,
But then we would have to follow the procedure if they demand a hearing or the officer, of our hearing officer. So that gives them the time to make that demand.
so that's one of the reasons for 30 days is to have like a Skelly hearing.
But this one also says in the middle of the paragraph, immediately suspend employee from assigned duties.
Right, okay. And then there's compulsory, on the last page, on page 100, compulsory leave of absence upon being informed that they've been charged with mandatory leave of absence offense. So, I mean, this is some very big deal. And so again, they immediately go on leave. But again, do they have 30 days? Do you know? Or, I mean, I know that this is probably covered in Ed code.
Right, but this is charged with an egregious act. So that doesn't mean convicted. So there is an education code that lists several penal codes, that if you are charged with one of those penal codes, you're immediately placed on leave.
Okay,
Generally, those are unpaid, but it would depend on which code you're charged with. Then once there is a conviction, we would then start our dismissal process.
okay. So like if you're selling controlled substance to students, for example.
That's one of the
I would
bad
assume
ones,
that's
yes.
One of the bad ones, yeah.
You nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, I was just, yeah, okay, all right. That's all I want to know.
Okay, moving on to Board Policy 4119-11, 4219, 4219-11, 4319-11, sexual harassment.
Thank you. So this board policy was updated in 2023. Current language at that time was already updated, but what we really feel is best practice moving forward is to have certain elements that were in this board policy moved into the administrative regulation, because it's more of the process of how the investigation unfolds, whereas this just needs to define what the sexual harassment is. And so we also, and you can see it in some of the pages behind, created a new administrative regulation specific to Title I complaints that outlines that entire, it's like 11 pages, that entire investigative process. So you have in front of you the suggested changes for 4119.11, the sexual harassment board policy, which is just updating with removing some of the elements that were in there that we moved into the AR. And then in the pages behind, you can see the AR and then the new AR that was created specific to the Title I process.
Was there,
Title IX, thank you. I'm sorry. Too many ones.
was there a change in ed code? which
No.
spurred this on?
No. We are being audited this year, however, and it is really important that the Title IX regulations are outlined specifically. So it was best to pull out those elements and create a separate policy. AR, not policy. Thank you.
Yeah, ARs allow us, when process rules change, we can change those in an AR and respond quickly, as long as the core policy doesn't change. So this allows us to respond with AR changes, again, all public, if a process changes. So if the core underlying Title IX issue doesn't change, but the investigative process for some reason in a ruling changes, we can change our AR to match that new process as required.
And when ARs change, are we notified? 'Cause I don't know that
Historically,
that's
since I've been
past
here,
practice.
since I've been here, we have been doing it. I can't speak before that, but in the last 2 years, we have been, because we've been doing them as we do these board policies. But we would not get board approval, but yes, you'd be notified of an AR change.
So in the first grouping, when these come to the board, they will have the ARs with them?
If we have the ARs done, it will. If not, we'll send you the ARs as soon as they're done, as they go public.
Comments?
That'll work.
So I just want to sort of call this out. This covers any situation where there's an adult involved. So an employee sexually harassing a student sexually harassing an employee harassing another employee, but not a student-to-student situation. That is in the student. Okay,
That is correct.
I just wanted to sort of call that out. All right.
My question was the distinction of Title IX. The only thing I could see was that the sexual, 110. The difference between just the sexual harassment versus Title IX is, from what I'm reading, that it occurs in an education program or activity. Like, is that the distinction?
It is.
These are good questions for Laura. She's our Title IX coordinator.
Laura? Any other questions, comments?
I just have one other. So on page 112, under sexual harassment, and it's listing training. Number 4, strategies for preventing harassment, discrimination, and retaliation, and appropriate steps to ensure remedial measures are taken, including an effective process for investigation of a complaint. How do we know what that process is? Where is that listed or described?
So you're referring to a page in the AR right now. And then behind this in the, so this does have the training component, and then the Title IX process will outline the entire investigative process. That's the AR that's right behind this one.
Oh,
The
okay.
new one that was just created, 4119.12. That's like 11 pages, I think. This one's quite lengthy as
Page
well.
starts on page 116.
Yeah.
Say that again?
Starts on page 116 in your book.
Oh,
But the training is comprehensive
Oh,
and
gotcha.
all employees do have to receive training in sexual harassment annually. And then all administrators get Title IX training as well,
okay.
comprehensive.
Dr. Brown, you and I had discussed that recently because of the 2020 and then the 2024 and the 2020. So since we're really now working off the 2020, do we have most of our staff trained? Unless they're new to us or something?
Correct. All staff, unless they're new to us and they've never had it in a previous position before.
Okay, thank you.
4319.42, exposure control plan for bloodborne pathogens.
Yes, we are updating our exposure control plan for bloodborne pathogens. Human Resources worked with our health services and student services. This is another very outdated policy. We are setting the policy correct, which follows the Labor Code and the California Code of Regulations. And it's also taking the aspects out of our practice and putting that into the administrative regulation. So that is how we enact the policy once it's set.
Did we have one before? Was there a policy before?
Yeah, this policy was last amended in 1999.
So it just had the two tiny paragraphs and then now we've added.
Correct. And then we have the robust administrative regulation that lays out the entire plan for controlling bloodborne pathogens.
Comments, questions? All right, 7B, deletion, moving on.
Back to Laura.
8B, staff development, deletion, moving on. 9B,
All right.
here we go. 4131, 4231, 4331, staff development.
So we did delete the board policy that we had, the separate board policy for teachers, the separate one for management employees, and put them in one board policy called staff development. The previous policies were all in place since 1997. And it's the new one that combines all three employee groups is updated to reflect our current district practices. I wanted to say something about, because we were speaking about this in one of the previous, when I came up, it just jogged my memory about the tracking. So we have our own internal system, True North Logic, which was mentioned previously. Employees, when they take classes with us that accumulate hours, certificated employees, for every 15 hours of coursework that they take through even our own district, because they've all been vetted and approved, they get 1 unit, they can use 1 unit towards column advancement. And we do have a means for them to request a transcript for all the coursework that they took with us and then give them column advancement credit for that. And so that also is tracked in our personnel records because we need to do an ER because they're moving columns. We see all the courses that they're taking. So it is another way through staff development for them to move over on the salary schedule, which is great. They don't just have to get a transcript from a university with graduate level work in order to do that. But that is another way that they can move over.
So a question on that, and I understand what you're saying. Does it take the employee to realize, oh, I'm ready to ask for that? We don't have it in the system. Ding, ding, ding. Oh, this person, qualifies, and let them know that we should be giving them more money.
They
So-
have to request it.
Okay. I figured that's what it was.
And they are very well supported in that through the teachers union as well as through our own communication with them. And we're all about promoting, staff development, bettering their practice, and getting them, expanding education and getting them, it's better for their
And if
pocketbook.
you spend the time to get enough credits to move over a whole column, you definitely submit the paperwork.
And there's a lot of programs out there for employee management, employee records. They're prohibitively expensive to switch or to add to do those programs. Districts have spent tens of millions of dollars figuring out how to roll into those new programs. But we don't. We stay with what we got. And to Trustee Adams's point, they don't forget usually to ask. But we don't have the ability to create like a reminder system inside our programs. It was just not something our programs are built to do.
Right, but it is, we do cover it at the new employee orientation for all of our new teachers, and it's part of the onboarding process for our certificated employees, because we determine where they're placed on the salary schedule, and then we explain how you can move up columns by getting additional.
Go ahead.
Correct. That's in our employee information system. So every employee has their units tracked and their column and step placement, which would be a cell on an Excel sheet on the salary schedule. And that's how their salaries are calculated. So when they move up a cell or down a cell, if they increase their years of service with us or their education, that'll change their compensation. And that's all tracked in our employee information system. So you could run a report to determine how many employees have 11 years and 45 units, you'd be able to determine.
I don't want to get way off track, but because we're on this, do we have within the system a defined, there's so many different classes they could go to, so many different offerings that how do you go about saying this one qualifies, this one doesn't? And I know Laura Lyon is very good at this because I got something that I gave to a teacher and they said, yeah, I want to do this. And then it didn't qualify and they spoke to you and you worked with them. But it's like, that's got to be really hard. So is there a way to define, tell us a little bit about that or
So
in broad strokes?
Yes, broadly. Employees can, if it's not taken through a university where we can clearly see that it's graduate level, if it's in this instance that you're speaking about, this was a music teacher who really wanted to take some coursework. So we have a graduate work approval form that they fill out and they submit it to our department. We review it to make sure that it's robust enough to qualify because, I mean, we're actually giving them graduate level units for doing some of this work. And they just have to give us the documentation. We review it. They need to make sure it's done through an entity that is legitimate. And, you know, there used to be language that all online classes needed to be pre-approved. Well, now pretty much everything is online. So we've amended our collective bargaining agreement so that you don't have to submit for every single online class. But that's the process. They turn it into HR, we review it, we let the employee know that it's been approved. They just have to do it 20 days before they start the class, and then they turn in the sheet to us afterwards, and we hold on to that until they move over columns. Yeah.
$351 employee compensation.
All right, and this is Christina.
Good evening, trustees. So employee compensation for 151-4251-4351 has been updated to include information from the deleted board policy minimum wage, as well as some information about additional compensation. Any questions? Pretty straightforward.
Oh, I have a very quick one. On 149, the last non-red line, it says explaining the Fair Labor Standard Act's wage and provisions. Can we call out, put in parentheses FLSA? Because I think later on we refer to FLSA.
We do.
Yeah, we do. So let's put it in in there.
Great idea.
Thank you.
And since you answered what USC is, what is CFR? In terms of down,
Code of Federal Regulations, I believe.
code of?
Google it real fast.
Yes.
We let Michael go home.
Oh,
We
okay.
can't know that.
Code of Federal Regulations. Because it wouldn't be California federal regulations, because that's state and federal.
And the
It's code
F
of
is for
federal.
of? It should be.
No, it's federal.
Federal.
They just, the
Code
doesn't,
federal
Regulations. code.
regulations.
the
Okay.
doesn't get a letter.
Too small.
Okay, okay,
Doesn't count.
Those are
thank
the
you.
little words.
I mean, as long as you gave me the other, I thought I should know this.
You should.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Let me
Code
know.
of federal regulations, according to Google.
All right,
Okay.
B12. Any other comments? Moving on to B12.
All right.
4213.2, vacancies, promotions, increase in hours, and voluntary reassignments.
So once again, revisions to this policy, really to clarify our current practice and ensure that this policy aligns with our collective bargaining agreements around vacant positions, promotional procedures, increase in hours, and voluntary reassignment process.
Okay, questions on this one? Comments? Trustee Jones?
On 152, voluntary assignment,
Mhm.
I felt like we were missing a statement here that when an employee is voluntarily assigned, new classification, fail to satisfactorily meet requirements, they'll get
Previously held classification, yes.
classification, da, 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 da. And then it says a probationary employee may be released. Kind of boom.
Yeah.
And I thought that we ought to repeat that, like, and say a probationary employee who is voluntarily, who fails to meet the requirements of the,
Mm.
maybe released. It just sounded scary to me. So I just thought we ought to.
We can do that, not a problem. Mhm.
Wait, can I, just clarification on that?
Oh.
So when when an employee voluntarily reassigns,
Right.
they start a new probationary period.
Right.
If they've already established permanency in their previous job, they'll go back there.
Correct.
Okay.
I understand. Yes, I understand what we're saying here. I just think we needed that introductory phrase. Because otherwise it just sounds like you're probationary.
I do think
you're
actually,
voluntarily.
yeah,
That it's
this-
not about the accepting a different position.
this line specifically for probationary employees who have not earned permanent status.
I understand
Yeah.
that. No, I
But
totally understand.
Now that
what
we're
you're
talking
saying.
about it, we actually might not
Yeah.
want
Probationary?
that here.
What?
The line doesn't go here.
You don't think so?
No, because
Oh, okay.
because it's already established.
But this is, but the
Okay, but
first
we're not-
sentence in this paragraph is,
Okay.
when an employee voluntarily reassigns, that can be a probationary employee or permanent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Voluntarily resigned. Who has
Correct.
never established.
The second sentence says, if you were a permanent employee and reassigned, don't pass probation, you go back to your last permanent position. The final sentence is clear that if you are a probationary employee who then promotes as a probationary employee,
Exactly.
if you do not
That's what
pass
it says.
probation in the
so-
second job, there's nowhere to come back.
So what it needs to say is a probationary employee who has not established permanency in any position may be released.
Or rather, what if we just, as when in probation or permanent?
No, because it's two different things. It's,
No.
yeah, it's two different rules, yeah. So if you've established permanency, you get to go back. If you were probationary and you voluntarily resigned and you're still probationary and you fail, now you are released. So I
understand.
think the line should be a probationary employee who has not established permanency may be released from employment from the cabinet. That's, I think.
But under what circumstances? Because right now, here's the sentence right now.
That's exactly how the ed code's written. We can release a probationary employee at will without providing justification or a circumstance.
Yeah, we don't have to give them a reason.
Regardless of voluntary reassignment.
But I think the clarity of
Yeah.
a probationary
That's
employee who
important.
was reassigned while probationary, we just want to clarify that, who
Right,
didn't
exactly.
earn permanency in their previous classification.
And
We
and
got it.
Dr. Brown, you're asking for who's never reached permanency. By definition, a probation employee has never.
Well, no, but this one talks about your probationary again in your new position when you voluntarily assign. So there's now two types of probationary in this paragraph. There's, I was permanent, I reassigned, I'm probationary for 6 months, I get to go back if I'm ineffective. And then there's probationary, I reassigned, I'm still probationary, I'm done if I'm ineffective.
I have a question about what's in the parentheses, promotion or demotion. Does it not ever happen with a lateral move?
It could be a transfer.
So
But
why
it-
does it make it seem like only if it's a promotion or demotion?
We could add the word transfer if that's more clear, but it's just to make sure you know that when employees
When you're
elect to
moved-
or these are voluntary.
These are voluntary.
These are not
Voluntary.
They're
Yeah.
choosing a move.
district transfers. These are voluntary, so these are employees who either apply for a promotion or in fact they apply for what really is a demotion. They're applying, they're a para 2 and they want to be a para 1. They're a para 4 and they want to be a para 2. They're voluntarily reassigning and it's a demotion.
And I'm thinking, so answer this, they're at this one school and they'd really rather be at this other school, or they've just physically moved their home and this would be close.
So that wouldn't
That'd
make
be
them,
lateral.
that wouldn't make them probationary again, though. That'd be the same
Yeah,
classification.
that's just a transfer.
That's
That
just a
doesn't affect
transfer,
their
that doesn't
employment
affect their
status.
permanency.
Okay.
Board Policy 4218, dismissal, suspension, disciplinary action.
So previously, Laura discussed 4118 dismissal, suspension, disciplinary action. This one is 4218 for our classified employees. You'll see some similar additions to the policy that outlines the proceedings for discipline and compulsory leaves. We did also remove the sections on causes, procedures, and procedural timelines from the board policy to the AR, and the AR is included as well.
On to 14B, Policy 4222, teacher aides and paraprofessionals.
All right, Board Policy 422, specific to teacher aides and paraprofessionals. In our district, we call them paraeducators. These were just updates to the policy related to the qualifications. We've moved them from the board policy to the AR, and that has been included. I also do want to point out a correction that we have already identified on page 173, the very top where it says AR 4222, that should be BP. And at the bottom where it says administrative regulation, that should say board policy. And the date for approval is not May, it is August 27th. We had this one prepped and now we moved it. And then the second page is the clean copy of the board policy, not the administrative regulation.
We have such a hard time keeping paraprofessionals. Can't we have some clause in there? If you accept a position with CUSD, you're signing up for 5 years?
Minimum.
I'm being funny, yeah.
That might hurt our recruitment
Right.
process.
Moving on to 15B, deletion, we're moving right on past that one. 16B, Board Policy 4315, evaluation, supervision, management.
Yes, so this is a proposed revision to our evaluation supervision board policy for managers. And we have added contents of that previous board policy that we just deleted. We added about the competency for evaluating
number
teachers
2.
down at the end of this particular board policy. We also created or revised the AR that goes along with this board policy that outlines the process and the timeline for evaluating all of the employee groups. So there's certificated evaluation and then confidential and classified. So that's all outlined in the AR with the timelines and matching our new management evaluation tool.
So do you have in your fancy computer system, kind of like what we do in special ed when an IEP is due, like something that you get a little flash on your computer, or the principals do in terms of when they're supposed to be on this? Because that's always a challenge of getting it done within a timely
We do.
frame.
We track, you're speaking specifically to certificated and classified. I mean, we track them. Yeah, we track them. And the system that we've developed knows the last time, because teachers can be, this board policy is about managers, and we have a certain system that we use for, and it's outlined in the AR, how often they're evaluated every other year for classified managers, and every other year for our principals as well. But we did add some new language because teachers can have up to 5 years if they've worked for us for 10 years or more. And the automated system that we have will update it 5 years. But all the principal has to do is give us a call and have us update the system if they want to evaluate someone sooner than those 5 years. So they can do that. Otherwise, it's every other year for all the other certificated employees.
Okay, I wondered, because there's so many different levels. And
Yes.
they're on different schedules.
They are.
That could be very challenging to be on track without having a system.
Yes,
It's
it
definitely
is
part of the
monitored.
setup every year for all of our leaders and
Yeah.
supervisors is who do I have to evaluate this year? Who's on cycle? Who's off cycle? Who do I want to put on cycle? Who's going every year because we're working on something specific? So that's definitely kind of how we start our summer, really, for a lot of our leaders.
And this has been a push in human resource over the past 3 years, and Christina and Laura have taken on both the classified and certificated side to ensure that everybody is being evaluated on schedule. Our principals are well aware if they want to put somebody on cycle, who wasn't on cycle, and when those timelines are, and that starts to happen right about now. So we're constantly in contact with our site, all supervisors, to make sure that if we need to put an employee on an evaluation cycle, we do it right away.
Well, I just think that's great, because with principals, they're obviously into the education, all the things that they are lining up, and then all of a sudden, if they learn late without a forecasting of, oh, shoot, now I have so many, reviews that I have to do, and they're due, in 15 days.
Yeah, if that were to happen, they did not read a lot of emails we sent over the summer.
Well, we all know about reading
Not
emails.
That changes a different evaluation.
Yeah, exactly.
That's this evaluation you just reviewed for management.
That's a
Exactly.
different one.
Any other comments? All right, moving to 7B. Board Policy 4161.8, 42.
Deletion.
Just kidding, deletion, thank you. And 4212, Appointment and Conditions of Employment, B18.
That's also a deletion,
And it's a deletion.
and the AR is here for you as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is 7:07.
I have a general suggestion, and that is that we'll get these on consent, but there will be some changes from tonight. I wanted to suggest that Mrs. Hayes accept changes so that everything that we saw here tonight becomes like what it already is, and any changes that get made as a result of tonight or something else that you find show up as new. Can we do that?
Yeah, so to be
Okay,
clear,
with them to make sure we get it. Right,
I'm
no.
I'm not sure if that's
Yeah,
a
they're
break
not-
from our policy, because if you're approving it on a second reading at a regular board meeting, the public should see what is being changed from the old policy to the new policy.
So it
And
won't be on
we
consent.
will always provide a clean copy, because that's been a board request. So
So
you
could
would
we
have the
highlight
track
them?
changes from old to new. And it's some of them that are so struck through in red underline, then there'd be a clean copy, so it's easy to read what it would look
yeah, I
like.
guess the question, is the trustees would like to see, to be able to pick out where the suggestions from tonight changes were made, separate from the changes that were. So I wonder if we can highlight.
We'll
them.
highlight.
We'll highlight the changes from tonight. Yep.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I would like to see,
Distinctly
because,
Yep, we'll,
These highlights, and just add the few that were.
right,
yeah, we have to, I agree with Bob, though, we have to,
Have to
sorry, Dr.
deletions.
Presby, that we
just-
have to leave the original, all the changes that you're looking through in a first reading, so that when the public sees it on consent and you're voting on it, they see all of the changes that are being made from the policy, in 1997 to now in 2025. But we will highlight the changes that are from your feedback tonight, so you can be like,
And a
oh, that's a
different
different one.
color.
Yeah, we'll highlight them in yellow or something.
something
Yes.
like that, yeah,
Yes, so you can delineate them.
okay.
Okay, any
Got
other
that?
comments, thoughts? All right, there being no further business before the board, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Moved by trustee Jones, seconded by trustee Bulkus. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 700 to adjourn the meeting. The time is now 7:10 PM. Thank you very much. Have a good night.